Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of 30 Minutes with HR. I am your host, Rita Kusi, and if you're watching this episode, you're watching it on AAU TV. 30 Minutes with HR is a partnership program between KUSI Consultant and the Association of African Universities. And today we are discussing a very important topic. We're discussing on-the-job injuries, responsibility of both the employer and the employee. Workers' compensation, which is also known as on-the-job injuries, can be very costly to employers and can also cause employees to lose their lives. So this is a very important topic, and I really want you to tune into today's episode. If you're watching, let us know where you're watching from so that we can give you a shout out. Today, I am joined by Rebecca Ama Larbi Aryeetey. She is the HR and Administrative Manager at BM Construction. I'm going to have you introduce yourself again and maybe say a little bit more about what you do.
Okay. Thank you, Rita, and thank you for having me on this show. My name is Mrs. Rebecca Ama Larbi Aryeetey, the Human Resource Manager for BM Construction. I've been in human resource for a very long time, for about 4 to 5 years, and then mostly with the construction and design industry. So let's say I'm good.
I'm sure you're good,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Good. And I'm sure you're going to provide our viewers with a lot of insight in the areas of workers' compensation.
Yes.
Now, you and I already actually started the conversation before the show because there's so much that goes unsaid when it comes to on-the-job injuries.
Yes.
So first of all, let's explain to people what are on-the-job injuries.
Okay. So when we say on-the-job injuries, then we are talking about any form of sickness, disease, or even death that occurs out of accident whilst the employee is on the job or is carrying out duties on the job. That's what we mean by on-the-job injuries.
Okay. What are some other words that I think there are also other names that people refer to on-the-job injuries, like workers' compensation.
Okay.
Is there any other phrase that employers and employees should be aware of?
Okay, so job-related injuries.
Okay.
Is another way of expressing that.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we're going to show you this short video just to give you an example of what we mean by workers' compensation cases and on-the-job injuries. So watch this.
Accidents and illnesses in the workplace affect people every day. In fact, in 2010, 27 million working days were lost to ill health and injury, with an estimated cost to society of £13.4 billion. But how do you know if you're at risk? And if you are, what can you do to reduce it? Trips, slips and falls are the most common injury, with electrical incidents and manual handling and lifting not far behind. The riskiest industries to work in are agriculture, fishing, construction and long-distance lorry driving. And where you live can affect your risk too. But here's the good news. Employers can reduce the likelihood of workplace accidents with these 5 easy steps. Step 1. Identify hazards and individuals at risk. Step 2. List all risks based on severity and probability. Then prioritize them.
Shed light on this topic than yourself.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Number 4. So I hope you all watched this video, and I'm sure now we all understand what we mean by on-the-job injuries, workmen's compensation, or workers' compensation. All right, so now let's get talking. Can you tell us a little bit about just some of the cases that you've come across in your line of work in terms of workers' compensation?
Okay, so for instance, in the construction industry, then you'd have issues with, let's say, beams falling if they are not hooked properly, okay, or people falling off scaffold because they are not braced properly. That is where most of the injuries would come from, falling from heights.
Okay.
Yes, especially when you have a high-rise building,
Okay.
then you are more likely to find injuries of that sort.
Okay.
Yeah.
What other injuries have you come across while you've...
Okay, so good to say, for my time with BM Construction, we have recorded no injuries.
Really?
Yes.
In all the time, this whole time that you've been there? Interesting.
Yes.
You said that for 4 years, that you haven't had any...
Recorded any accident on the job.
Wow.
Yes.
And I actually asked you if it's because the employee gets injured and doesn't know to report it,
Exactly.
or if it's just not happening.
Okay, so I think that we give priority to health and safety at work, because first of all, we have health and safety officers, or engineers if you want to call them, who are on site. Okay, and then we also have some in the office. We have those who take care of paperwork, and we have those who pay much attention to work on site.
Okay.
And what those on site do is to make sure that in the mornings there are always toolbox meetings to train all employees. It doesn't matter if you were there yesterday. So far as it's a new day, it's a new set of rules, and then we have to go by it.
Okay.
And so they always make sure that these toolbox meetings are daily. They make sure that if you are not ready to put on a PPE, then you are not going to work on the site.
What is PPE? I know what PPE is, but what
Okay.
is PPE
Okay.
for our viewers?
Okay, so PPE is personal protective equipment that you use whilst on site. Okay, so we expect that if you're working in a high-rise building or even a normal ground floor building, you should be in helmet, for instance, so that when there is a fall, you are covered. You should be in boots. When something falls on your leg, you are covered. And it's also designed in such a way that it avoids slipping.
Okay.
So if, let's say, you have fluid pour on the ground, you are safe.
Okay.
Because it gives you a grip off the floor. Okay. So we give much attention to these, and we're always doing safety trainings at work. Okay.
Very, very, very important.
Every time. Let's say we do this quarterly. Okay.
Very important.
We bring in experts to come and do that.
Okay.
Okay, and they are awarded certificate for that.
Nice.
And so we always make sure that it is priority.
Okay.
Okay, and also at our workplace, we have all warning signs, hazardous places around, okay, so that if you're going to a particular place, you know that this is the kind of work that is going on there, and so you have to be careful. Okay, if we need to use caution tapes, we do. So you can come to the workplace and then there is caution tape.
All over.
And a visitor will come and you say, what is happening? And then we are like, it's because we are doing this kind of, exactly, renovation there. And so we need to caution our employees that this is going on at this particular time.
Okay.
So I think that's how we have saved ourselves the trouble of job-related injuries.
So you say you do a pretty good job in making sure that employees are aware of the hazard conditions. Okay. So let's say I'm an employee, right? I've been given a PPE, but I just don't feel like I need to wear it, and I end up getting injured because I'm negligent. Does that not qualify as workers' compensation?
No. As stated in the law, if the injury caused was deliberate, the employer has no obligation whatsoever to compensate you for your own negligence.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting. Huh. Okay. Well, if you're watching, I really hope you're soaking this up, especially for our employers, because I think the employer is actually the first point when it comes to hazard conditions and making sure that the workplace is safe.
Yes.
Most of the responsibility falls on the employer.
Exactly.
Would you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Interesting.
Yes,
okay, so now what measures, like okay, before we get to that point, when an employee sustains an on-the-job injury, what is the procedure? What's the process? And what do you, I mean, you mentioned on-the-job injury if you sustain from a fall. What is the process? If I'm an employee, I sustained an injury, what do I do?
Okay, so the catch here is everybody works under a supervisor. Okay, so it is the duty of the supervisor to report the accident as soon as it happens. This is because that person might be involved in fatal injury. The person could not talk, or the person cannot do anything at the time. It is the supervisor who can actually give us detailed information on what happened.
What if they weren't there?
Usually the supervisor, it should be with you whilst you're working.
Okay.
And so we structure the work in such a way that there are people who go round and about gathering materials, gathering tools, gathering equipment. The supervisor is supposed to be stationed there whilst work is going on. We try as much as possible to seize movement of the supervisor from the site or at work, so that he is in control of the situation. Okay, so it is up to the supervisor to do the reporting. If your immediate supervisor is not around, the next in line would have to pick the form,
okay,
and do the reporting. So there is an accident or injury report form
that gets completed.
Exactly.
Okay.
So let's say you were in Kumasi and it happened. What you have to do is to quickly call, or you talk to the clerk of works on the site. We usually provide all those forms for them on site.
Okay.
And clerk of works is stationed on the site. And so he releases the form, the supervisor picks it up, and then he fills it and then sends it directly to us.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the employee does not complete the form
No,
themselves?
no.
I wonder why that is.
Because there are a lot of instances where at that particular time the person is injured, the person might not be conscious, or the person is in too much pain to report detailed as it happened.
Okay.
Okay, and so there might be discrepancies in what the person will tell you. So it is good that you have somebody there at the time of the injury do the reporting.
Okay.
You can only allow the employee to do the reporting if it is a minor accident or minor injury,
okay,
where the person has consciousness to fill the form as expected.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is because it's probably not all cases where the supervisor will be around, you know. So if I'm injured but my supervisor didn't notice, does that mean that it's not, you know, workers' compensation?
Yeah.
So speaking of forms, we're actually going to, you brought a standard VM construction on the job injury report form.
Yes.
So let's take a look, and then you can just take us through the form, how it gets completed, and the kind of information that you would need from the employee.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
All right, so let's take a look at the injury report form.
Okay, so first off, the first part of the form talks about the details of the employee,
Okay.
the person's name, the person's ID number, the department that the person belongs to, and the address of the particular employee.
Okay.
That's what the first part of the form is for. Now, the second part of the form talks about the time and the date of the event.
Okay.
Okay, that's about the second part. Then the third part of the form talks about the detailed occurrence. So if it was an accident, then if it was, a body injury or whatever it is the form, this is the part that will detail everything that happened. In terms of which part of your body was injured, you describe in full detail. Then the nature of the injury in full detail.
Okay.
And then you describe fully how the accident happened. Okay. What the employee was doing prior to the event, and then what equipment, tools that were used before the accident happened. Okay. And then you have a portion where you write the names of witnesses in case they were there. They are also able to give you full details later in case the person reporting the accident missed anything at all.
Okay.
And then on that part too, you have what caused the accident. Now, we also would want to find out if the accident needs medical care, okay, from you. And so it is stated there, and we give the opportunity for the person filling the form or the person injured to give us preventive action, to recommend a preventive action to be taken to prevent such recurrence.
How they feel that injury could have been.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So when this form gets to me, then I put my comment under it. This is to ensure that the form has been filled and has reached the HR manager, and the right steps would be taken.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yes.
I used to actually manage the workers' compensation claims in our previous, my previous job.
Okay.
And I mean, we encourage employees to report. I mean, even if it's a little scratch,
Like
just
a near miss?
because little scratches can become something big.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
So we mentioned that the industries where a lot of the workers' comp claims occur, agricultural, construction,
Yeah,
fishing. But how about a place where it's just like administrative? I mean, would you recommend that they have on-the-job injury reports on standby just in case?
Yes, because on-the-job injury can occur in every environment, office environment.
Exactly.
Because you might have water spill on the floor, nobody cleans it, somebody goes and then falls.
Slips.
Yes. So that means that they also need an accident report form at their workplace to record these incidents.
Improper lifting.
Exactly.
That I think is actually one of a lot of the cases that happen.
Exactly.
Because there's a way that you're supposed to lift.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For instance, if you come to the construction industry and we are hiring you, we consider physical activity. And so we'll make you go through medical examination.
Exactly.
To make sure that you are fit
for the position.
Exactly. Exactly.
Very, very true.
Because if you have someone, you know, for instance, they are printers, they are photocopiers, even at the office, and each and every one of it comes with its own weight. Now you'd have someone lift one of these heavy printers, okay, and it will be detriment to his health.
Exactly.
Okay, and mostly comes in the form of your spinal cord, because if something happens, then we are in trouble. And so it's our duty to make sure that you do not lift things that two people should do at a time.
It shouldn't be one person.
Exactly.
All right. So if you're watching, you are watching us live on AAU TV. Today, myself and my guest, Rebecca Ama Larbi Aryeetey,
yes,
we are discussing on-the-job injuries, the responsibility of both the employer and the employee. And it's really, really important that you take notes from this conversation, because workers' compensation cases can be very costly to employers, right? And can also cause employees to lose their lives. There are cases that get reported where employees have actually had fatal accidents, right? So now the form is completed.
Yes.
You've been given the form. What's next?
Okay. So the form is completed, it's brought to me. So as I said, in the form, we would like to know if it needs medical attention.
Okay.
Then we quickly do that. Now, if it doesn't, what we do is to call the health and safety in.
Okay.
Then we describe the situation to the health and safety officer, and then we ask what are the preventive measures, or on the form there were these preventive measures stated. Do you think it's the right way to go?
Okay.
If it's a yes, then we do that. If it needs improvement, then we add on to what we have there, and then it's worked on. Now these forms are kept on file, because at the end of the day we want to know how well we're doing when it comes to health and safety. Okay, and so because all these issues come along when you even have to win contracts. The clients would want to see your profile, want to see if you have a health and safety statement.
Interesting.
He wants to see if you've had injuries on the job. So if you've had none, or you've had just a few cases, then he has trust that you're going to give him a good job. Okay. So it's very important to keep these on file. You'd always visit. You'd make sure that whatever happened would always be reiterated during your safety meetings, so that that incident will not occur again.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm sure with the more, if you have a lot of workers compensation claims in your organization, then it's costly to the employer.
Exactly.
Right? For instance, like the medical care.
Yes.
Because it's not the employee that's paying for their own health insurance when they go to seek health care. And also, what if the employee has to take days off work? What happens?
If the employee has to take days off, it's if the injury was caused whilst on the job without the negligence of the employee, then we're good to go. We can give the person days off to rest.
Okay.
Because in any case, when an employee goes to the hospital and he needs some days off, we do give, because health is very important.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
so we are obliged to give you those days off work to rest.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
You actually shared 2 forms with me. The
Yes.
first one was the injury report for the reporting.
Yes.
What was the second form?
Okay, so the second form, is for fatal injuries on the job. So you fill that, and then you are supposed to submit that form.
Okay, let's take a look at the form.
Okay.
Can we take a look at the fatal form? Okay, so this is it. This is the second form.
Yes. So this form, reports of fatal accident, is to be given to the labor office. Okay, to inform them if an accident has occurred at your office. Okay, and this would also inform as to what compensation should be given to the employee. Okay, and that you are actually doing the right thing.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. All right, so when it comes to, and I think employees should know that there's actually a workers' compensation act.
Yes.
Yeah, that they can easily find online.
Exactly.
Yeah, in case they need more information about whether or not to report a certain injury. I was having a conversation with our HR manager yesterday.
Okay.
And he mentioned that, you know, in Ghana, a lot of employees are skeptical to report on the job injuries because they feel like, oh, we don't want to be a burden to them, to the employer. A lot of employees don't report because they don't want to be a burden to the employer. And I'm thinking, well, I mean, what if, so then you want to be a burden to yourself. So if you sustain the injury, are you going to go to the hospital? So what will you say in that instance when employees get injured? What should they do?
Okay, so I'll say that the employee should know that in as much as an employer gives you the opportunity to work at his environment or office environment or site, he is also responsible for your health at work. And the law says that they are obligated to make sure that you are healthy on the job. Okay? And so you shouldn't feel that you are putting any burden whatsoever on the employer.
It's their responsibility, right?
Exactly.
To make sure that the workplace is safe.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what can employers do on the job to make sure that employees are aware of safety hazards so that they don't get injured?
Okay.
What would you say to the employers?
Okay. So for the employers, what they have to do is to give trainings regularly. Like I mentioned, for where I am, we make sure that quarterly there are trainings for these employees. And so the employer should train the employees on all these issues regularly so that they are abreast with everything that is going on. They are abreast with the laws. They are abreast with the fact that they also have a part to play when it comes to health and safety issues. Okay, it's the only way to give them that knowledge. Okay.
Yeah, I go to some employment places and you notice that there are caution signs over the place, you know, hazard conditions are posted.
Exactly.
That's very important for employers to do, because if it's posted, it's in your face, you know, and if you sustain an injury, then chances are you probably disregarded what was posted on site. All right. So is there anything else that you would like to share with our viewers regarding workers' compensation?
Okay, so what I like to say is that we as employees should know that we are also obligated to do the right thing at the workplace. We are supposed to put on our personal protective equipment anytime it is given and make sure that we use it on the job, because in any ways the employer is going to compensate you if anything of that sort happens, but what's next for you? It's almost always the important question. So I'll say that let's make sure that we use the equipment that we are given to work. Let's make sure that all rules and regulations regarding its use are adhered to. It's the only way we can all be safe at work, and always go to work happy and come back home happy.
Exactly. And in one piece.
Yes.
Right? All right. So, and I think it's really important that we note that regardless of what industry you find yourself, you should always have measures in place, whether it's a safety manual. I think we spoke about the safety manual, which provides employees information about how they can stay safe on the job. And then also just adhering to the rules. You know, if you're you shouldn't be lifting that heavy box,
just don't.
Then just don't do it. You know, so a lot of the responsibility also falls on the employee as well. I think is 50-50.
Yes.
So, and I want to commend you on the amazing job that you're doing, because if you haven't had any injuries in 4 years, that's definitely something to celebrate for the construction industry at that.
Yes.
So I definitely want to commend you on that. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So we have come to the end of today's episode. I hope you tuned in, and I hope you found the show very insightful. Again, if you are an employer, then you have a responsibility to keep your employees safe. And if you are an employee, you also have a responsibility to keep yourself and your colleagues safe as well. And if you do sustain an injury on the job, do not be afraid to take it to your supervisor, even if it's a small cut, because a small cut could turn into something infectious and turn into. And you, how many days does one have to actually report a claim? Is there a specific time?
Yes, but you'd have to do it as soon as it happens.
As soon as it happens. But you can still, if let's say I sustained an injury a month ago, I may have twisted my ankle or so, but I didn't really have any immediate pain. But then maybe a couple of weeks or a month later, I start to feel my, so then can I come at that time to still record it?
Yes, you can.
Okay, it's very, very important. I want to mention that because someone might say, oh, this happened a month ago, you know, so maybe I can't report it, but you can. All right, so we have come to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.